Welcome to the Fit2 Talk podcast.
You just found the #1 health and fitness podcast for performers. Congratulations. And you are listening to a guest episode during which we discuss the realities of a career in the performing arts with people who are fit to talk about them.
Yes, we do. And if you like what we do, please leave us a review, or on Spotify, click that follow button.
Also, if you like our meaningful, helpful and accurate information and you might want to be coached by us too, then Fit to Perform is for you.
Absolutely. Yes, it is. You can find out more information over on our Instagram, Fit2Perform West End, or over on our website, fit-2.co.uk.
Moving on, we have an incredible guest for you today.
An absolutely sensational guest today.
A legend.
So today's guest is essentially the First Lady of musical theatre.
Bobby did a wonderful hand signal movement there.
Yeah, enjoy that. Enjoy it in the silence. That was me giving my queen hand.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So she originated the role of Meat in We'll Rock You, the Queen musical. She was the very first British Elphaba in Wicked, just a small part. Casual. She's also been in Les Mis, Cats, Anything Goes, Rent, Miss Saigon, My Fair Lady, Oliver. The list goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah, we actually had a debate about how much to include.
We genuinely did.
Because there is too much. But, really she doesn't really need that much introduction.
No. Like, everybody knows her. She's just like, she's an icon.
Yeah, and what a wonderful, wonderful human being as well. That was a really lovely outcome. Or it's not a surprise, but, you're like, oh, actually, when a legend is also joyous.
Yeah.
So we hope that you love her just as much as us. Please enjoy the captivating Kerry Ellis.
It's Fit2. I'm fasting. I haven't had coffee yet, so don't talk about coffee. It's like I'm waiting for my first one at 12.
Is that an intermittent fast, like food and coffee?
Yeah, everything.
Full on.
Well, I'm only doing the 12-8 though. So it's not horrendous.
Yeah.
But I've struggled not having coffee. You can have coffee, but you can't have milk in it. So, I'd rather not have it.
Fair.
Because it gets
I'd rather have my water.
bitter. Yeah.
Save the coffee for later when you can have it with milk.
Yeah.
If you couldn't have coffee in the morning, I think you'd die.
Yeah, that would be the end of me.
It is quite.
It's the one thing. It's my one thing.
Yeah, it's quite a thing.
Because you were just in Tokyo, right?
I was, yeah.
But I mean, I can't imagine there's milky coffee readily available there.
It's known for its milky coffee.
To be fair, I've only been fasting since. Well, no, I started in Tokyo because we'd just been on holiday, and my body clock was all over the place. So I listened to a podcast. I'm quite influenced like that, and I just needed a kick from Christmas, so I just started literally as I got off the plane in Tokyo. My body clock was all over the place, so it was actually all right. But I drank a load of just tea, like mint tea and stuff.
Yeah.
I just didn't drink a lot of coffee.
Tea that smells better than it tastes. It's a quality I don't look for in my food often.
You're not a herbal tea drinker, are you?
Do you know what? I don't mind. I actually do quite like a mint tea or a green tea. But it is mildly depressing at the same time.
It is, yeah,
I'm like,
it is.
oh wow, this smells so good.
Yeah.
And you're like,
You look at all the flavours like, this sounds fantastic. That's going to be amazing. All these wonderful ingredients.
Oh no, they're not.
Oh, it sounds like it tastes like every other tea.
No, they're not great.
It tastes like a shadow of the thing it wanted to be. That's the vibe I get from it. I'm like, I'm not getting full raspberry and strawberry infusion.
Like, how would you?
No. You're expecting full on smoothie.
That's what I want.
Yeah, I want it. Stay away from the herbal tea.
Your expectations are too high, Steffan. Come on.
So I just end up drinking loads and loads and loads of tea.
Just normal tea, builders,
tea.
Strong or lots of milk.
I actually don't mind. I'll if it's there, I'll drink it.
Yeah.
I think at home,
sugar, no sugar,
no sugar, because I drink so much tea that if I had sugar in it, I'd have no teeth. But I'm from Wales, and
are you? You haven't got a Welsh accent at all.
It's all a lie. It disappeared. I think I started pretending about 15 years ago, and it just stuck. And and the kettle is always on at home, permanently there. And I don't know if it's a Welsh thing, but everyone I knew did it growing up, and so it's sort of been passed on to me that there is now permanently a tea.
So
somewhere.
no coffee.
Well, now I've added coffee to the mix too.
Okay.
But
I feel like I've slowly influenced you to drink more and more coffee.
yes, and I've just managed to graduate to a coffee with no milk.
With
and
no
I'm
milk.
like, okay, I can have that as well.
Oh, that's hardcore.
Like if you're going to
Good
do it
coffee.
with no milk, it has to be like amazing coffee.
Yeah, it does.
You can't be going to like Pret. and
Oh,
getting
no.
A black Americano.
No, it's not going to cut it.
That's not going to cut it.
I think I'd have to have a sweetener in it. And then it would just, and then I can't do that anyway, so it's ruined it. I'd rather just wait. I'm
Do you
just
not
going
have a
to wait.
sweetener on the fast?
No.
I'd just be popping them like
Nothing.
pills.
Yeah, nothing.
That's the only thing I'm
Defeats the
allowed.
object.
Through the fast, just spike that insulin.
On the Canderel. Come on.
There are worse things, aren't there?
I know.
I feel like,
It's boring, isn't it? It's boring that we're talking about tea and sweeteners.
I don't know.
That's the content I'm here for. I'm fully on board.
I think that's what people tune in for,
Yeah.
to be honest. So how long were you in Tokyo for?
Literally like a week, 5 days, I think it was. Yeah, about 5 days.
That's a small amount of time
Yeah.
to, like, obviously you're going the right way for jet lag purposes when you're there.
No, it's awful.
Oh, really?
It's awful because
Just awful.
you get there. Although I'd been to Mauritius beforehand, so I was already 4 hours ahead, and then I left them, and I think then Tokyo is another 4 hours, so it's 9 from the UK. I think.
Oof.
How it works out. So yeah, I was just all messed up. So you're all right for the first kind of couple of days, and then you start to kind of like wake up at like 4 a.m,
Great.
which is
Perfect.
really helpful.
Ideal.
When you've got a show that evening,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is
That's the dream,
really
that is.
helpful.
Yeah, like the show is in 18 hours. Cool.
And then I
sleep.
never really sleep. Like on the day 4 or 5, I have a night where I just don't sleep because you're just so awake and you're like, I've got to sleep now, and I've got to get up soon because I'm going to fly home. And yeah,
Do you just power through then?
I just power through.
You're like,
And now without coffee.
Oh my God.
it's like an advert for water. Power through without coffee.
I know.
Drink water. H2O, yeah.
Awful.
That's terrible.
Awful. Yeah, you're
That's like a me joke.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
We love a terrible joke.
We do.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So Annie, you're welcome.
Stefan's the king of them.
I should
are
also
you?
say that you can swear.
Oh, good.
It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Yeah, brilliant.
not PG. Oh, we should also say that we do this little game called Liar Liar throughout the podcast
Okay.
that we invite all our guests to try and tell us a lie
Oh, at some point.
at some point during the recording.
Okay.
It can be about anything you wish.
Okay. And if you got to spot it.
We won't sort of call it out at the time.
Oh, okay.
But at the end of the episode, we'll guess what we think the lie
Oh,
was.
okay, great.
Or whether we think you've managed to lie or not.
Okay, I love that. All right.
And so don't worry, if you say something outrageous and you're worried that people might believe that it's true,
Yeah.
it's their fault for not listening to the end.
Amazing.
If
Great.
they go away.
Well, that'll be in What's on Stage tomorrow.
Kerry Ellis says she hates what's on stage. like, wait, no, whoa, easy. It was a joke. I kind of want to.
All right, brilliant. I've got it. I'm down. Got it.
Okay, she's in.
I'm in.
Here we go.
In which case, we'll start the way we normally do, which
Okay.
is to say, how does the story of your life begin?
Oh my God. I guess I was an overactive child, as lots of us are, and I think we get put into these classes and I was put into dance classes and stuff, and found my community very early on. I think and then since then I've been just overactive, like into everything. I think performance was a great outlet for me. I think it was a really good. I just really enjoyed it, and like fitness has gone alongside that, and that's been a big thing in my life, like the whole time. And I always kind of say, oh well, I've just kind of found fitness, but actually I haven't. I've been quite fit my whole life, like doing it alongside, and I think it just mentally, physically works alongside what we do. And I think that started very early on, alongside all my dance class and everything. I was into everything sport. I did everything that I could get my hands on. I did.
Like what?
Like what?
Obviously dance.
Oh, like
then sport.
trampolining, swimming, gymnastics. I did a bit of like just school sports, that kind of thing.
Trampolining, high-risk sports.
High-risk sports.
Such high-risk sport.
Oh, don't. My son's done it. So I took my son to Gravity on Saturday.
I saw on social media. He's
Oh my
fantastic.
God. Yeah, but it's so frightening. Like, when you're doing it's fine. You're like, yeah, great, I'll jump, I'll somersault, whatever. When your children start to do it, it's like, oh my God, you're going through it with them. And he's going, yeah, I can do 1, I can do 3, I can do. Stop backflipping. It's freaking me out. Yeah, just stop.
A new insight into what your parents must have been going through when you were doing it.
Exactly. And I was into all of it. Like I was proper adrenaline junkie. And I think it must have been quite horrendous for them.
My God, I actually broke a couple of ribs on a trampoline in a trampoline park because like you, I was like, I'm all in on everything and I could do it and it was all fine. But I was in one of those, it was before Gravity existed, but it was at a like festival type thing. And they had like 6 trampolines in one cage, you know how they used to do.
In a cage.
Safe.
That's terrifying.
Really
Perfectly
safe.
and a sort of walkway in between them. But they're like the Gravity ones, they're the same size and stuff. And I got a bit ambitious with what I tried.
It's unlike you.
Thank you for that little shout. Good morning. And it went horribly wrong. And I landed on the walkway in the middle on my head. And I had a show in about 40 minutes. The call was in about 40 minutes. And I'd broken 2 ribs. And I was like, oh, this is bad.
This is why it's on the contract.
Yes. And you go, okay, this was a poor decision from me. Did the show.
Oh, did you?
And then was like, off to hospital, guys.
Oh, I've done it in the show.
Couldn't breathe. Like it was.
God, what show were you doing?
It was in Wales. It's not
okay.
one you would know at that time. It was called Judas.
Oh, I love that. And were you Judas?
I think at that point I did it twice. I think at that point I was Jesus.
Oh wow! So quite integral to the role.
It was an important part of the show. Yes.
Exactly.
When I went back, I got to play Judas.
When you'd recovered.
When I recovered and they recast it. No, broken ribs did not go down well.
No,
for that. Now you know that your son's not going to break his ribs because he's smashed it.
Well, not now, but it's so frightening to watch, especially when they go backwards. You just think they're going to break their necks. They're going to land on their neck. Please don't break your neck. Please don't do it. I mean, he did have a little scratch that day, but it's so frightening. But
do you find that they're like super resilient though? Like if he falls over and like scratches, is he like straight back up or does it like unsettle him?
They are resilient. They're quite dramatic though. I mean, I don't know why. But yeah, they are. I mean, the kids just bounce back. They really do. They're so... you watch them go and then they do just get up. I mean, they will shout and scream about it, but although I've got a really bad story that I will share. With my son, my eldest son, we were at a park and he's, again, really active, really hyper, so I have to run them out. They're like having puppies, I have to run them out. And taking them to this park and he's like jumping from, it's a metal climbing frame, really safe. And he's climbing from one area to the other, and then he jumps and he kind of lands on his armpit. Kind of how like his whole body weight is on his armpit. And I see him land, and I think, okay, he's landed, great, he's fine. And then he's like, he comes to me, and he's like, my arm really hurts, and really, really painful. And he's kind of holding it. He's kind of holding it like up with his other hand. And he's kind of, I'm just thinking he's being dramatic. He's kind of, overreacting. He's going, no, it's really quite sore. And I said, we'll just have some Calpol when we get home, we'll be fine. So anyway, we get home and I look at it. I say, can you move it? And he can move it. And it's he can, but he's kind of just still a bit like a wounded soldier. Anyway, later, my husband gets home and says, where have you been? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, I went to the park. Alfie kind of hurt his arm a bit, but he's okay. Blah, blah. He's like, I'm not sure. My husband works in football, so he works with, bodies and, injuries all the time. And he's like, but he's kind of holding it. Anyway, kind of wait until the following, very, very late that evening. And my husband's like, I think we need to take him to A&E. I said, don't be so dramatic. He can move his arm. He can move it. It's not hanging off. It's not broken. Anyway, go to A&E and he'd fractured his arm in 3 places and ended up in a cast. And that was for 6 weeks. That was a joy.
Wow. Fractured in 3 places.
Yeah, so I'd left him all day with this fractured arm going, come on, you're being dramatic.
What an absolute warrior.
Yeah. That's incredible.
I know.
He's like, you're like, can you move it? And he's like,
It's moving. It's fine.
I'm in agony, but I'm fine.
Fair
bad
play.
parenting.
Well,
I think natural. Like, how do you?
what other decisions
He can
do you
move his
make?
arm. You're like, yeah, fine. That's all right then.
You know what though? I think as performers, we're so used to like getting up and getting on with you. And like you say, you go in with 3 broken ribs. You just kind of get on with it. And I've seen people do it. I've seen them get super injured and but I've got to finish the show. I mean, why do we have that need? Why do we do that?
And also, like, what is that a requirement? And why does it feel like one?
Yeah, I know, but it is in us all. I mean, we all seem to be wired the same way, and I don't know why.
I suppose I wonder if it's the privilege, I guess, of having the opportunity to be there in that position and to do that for those people. Also, you know that if you go off mid-show, then it is going to probably affect what the audience experienced at one time. Yeah. But on a personal level, you're like, no, if I've started the thing, I want to finish it.
Yeah.
I've had to go off mid-show a couple of times. You have, haven't you?
I mean, I went off in the finale because I broke my leg. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, you
Don't
broke
use that as an
your leg.
excuse.
Well, that's pretty hardcore. In what show and how did this happen? I need to know.
Singing in the Rain.
Ooh,
We'd done
Under the Water.
We'd even done the bows, and we were literally just stepping off. We're doing it at Kilworth House, and we stepped off the stage to like run off into the dressing rooms, and the stage is like a 1.5 foot high. I jumped off in my wellies, landed, and my ankle just went the wrong way, snapped, dislocated my ankle, broke my leg. That's the only time I've got off mid-show.
Oh my!
Really fun.
Ouch!
Really fun.
That was a treat.
Yeah, that's tricky.
So from trampolining and
Yes.
sports, you somehow were angled then towards Lane, wasn't it?
I was, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Suffolk. And my parents were like working club. My dad was a policeman. My mum worked in social services. So when I'm like, I want to perform, they're like, that's great, but we have no idea of how to help you, how to facilitate it. And my dance teacher at the time went to Lanes, and that was the only kind of thing we knew about. So I got an audition for Lanes, and I got in, which was great. I also auditioned for Bird, because then you start hearing about other places. Didn't get in there. And then was fortunate to do my 3 years kind of of drama college. That was a good drama college at the time. I mean, it still is, but it was one of the big 6 at the time. And it was by chance, really, because we didn't really know much about it. I was kind of local girl from, a local school kind of thing. But yeah, went to drama college, came out, and then went on a cruise ship for 9 months.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. And then came back and did Magic of the Musicals, and then I went into My Fair Lady.
Yeah, which is a pretty was there any time between the sort of cruise and the next stuff, or was it like was it just sort of lucky back to back stuff from the start?
It happened really quick. And looking back on it, I realised how lucky that was. And my first 10 years really were like that. They just went show to show, and I don't know. I guess I just had a bit of a run of it, which was really fortunate. I think at the time it was really great. I think I was fortunate with what shows were coming up. I was right for them, and had a bit of momentum, and I was doing some other stuff along the side with the music, and I think that all feeded each other. But yeah, it was a crazy time.
It's really refreshing to hear someone say that, because obviously that is, on one hand, it's incredibly humble of you to say that, because obviously all of those things are deserved, and you're in that position. But at the same time, it does require the fortune of the right shows and parts simply existing in that place at that time.
Absolutely,
to have the option. So you went. It was My Fair Lady first, like musical, right? And then you were covering Eliza. Is that right?
I was, yeah. So I was cast as a swing, so I knew the whole show, which was helpful. And I was cast as second cover Eliza. Alex J was the first cover, and I actually wasn't cast. We did 3 months at the National first, and at the National you don't really have second cover, so I was kind of in line for when we transferred to Drury Lane. That was how it was meant to happen. But, I mean, thank God I was watching and was a bit aware that I might play it at some point, because I got thrown on in previews, because Martine, bless her, got poorly, and then Alex went on, and Alex was only young. She was 20, I think. And then she got sick, and then I kind of got thrown on very quickly without any rehearsal, without any kind of run through with anybody. I remember Sean Kerrison just calling me and saying, you need to come in and we need to run through the whole show, you and I, this afternoon in the ballet room, which was a little rehearsal room. And he played all the parts. And we just ran the whole show. I didn't have costume fitting, nothing.
Wow.
So it was quite a whirlwind to be thrown on. But, I think when you're young, I think you're just fearless and you just do it. I think if I did it now, I'd be absolutely terrified. But I think you just do it. No, you go, yeah, I can do that.
I love this because you say that you're fearless. I had a not dissimilar experience. I was second cover for Trunchbull on the tour, and I was thrown on before rehearsing it all and all this stuff. And it was, it was exactly the same run through with the resident director going, right, and he's playing everything. Yeah. I was terrified.
Yeah, but how old were you?
Well, it was about 7 years ago now. So I suppose a little bit older than 21. How old was I then? 27.
Yeah, but you've done stuff. Like, this was my first big job. It was like nobody knew who I was. Like, I was the second cover. So the pressure wasn't on me. The pressure was, don't mess it up for anybody else. Just be where you've got to be, say the right lines, sing the right songs, and just don't mess it up for anybody else. You're opposite people like Jonathan Pryce and Dennis Waterman and Nicholas Lepreveau. These monster actors who are phenomenal. So my job was just to not get in anyone's way and just not ruin the show. So there was less pressure on me in a weird way.
I suppose when you are in that situation where you haven't properly rehearsed, there is no expectation. You just go out there and you do what you can do, and that's the best that you can do. So that, I suppose, rather than coming in there going, I'm fully rehearsed, I'm teched into the show, then the pressure is on.
Yeah. If
you're just thrown on, you go, okay, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Happy days.
It happened to me. It happened to me a lot. I mean, that happened to me in that show. It then happened to me in Wicked, like years later, because obviously Adina was over doing the first couple of months. I'd had a bit of rehearsal, but only in the studios, like with Annalene Beachy, who was playing the other standby at the time. And Adina went off literally just before Gravity. So the first time I ever went on was literally before.
Come and sing this big song.
Come and sing this big song.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh my
then the pressure was on.
God.
The pressure's on a little bit, but again, you're kind of you've got all this green makeup on, and it's happened so quickly. They don't stop the show. You know it's coming. So she kind of let them know after Wizard and I that she wasn't very well. So I had a few numbers, and I've got just people like throwing costumes and green paint at my face, and kind of just kind of getting me ready to throw me on. And literally, we like did a switch in the wings. So nobody, again, people didn't really know as such. I mean, there would have been a slight sound thing, but in the midst of a big show, I mean, would people notice?
If you're not in the front 5 rows of that thing, they're probably going, oh.
Sounds slightly different.
It's just you'd be going a bit mad.
Yeah, I think they made an announcement in the interval.
But I would absolutely love that when you're going, am I going mad, or is that a different person?
I know.
It's like they're messing with the audience.
It's mental though, isn't it, that things like that happen? I mean, as an audience member, you just don't see so much of what goes on. And the whole dialogue that's going on between people on the stage at times, I mean, you just have no idea.
I actually saw you in Wicked.
Oh, did you?
It was,
hopefully not that night.
No,
the very first one.
It was actually in before you officially took over. It was in Adina's last week,
right?
When obviously she was off because she fell, didn't she? And hurt herself. Not hurt herself. Was hurt.
Yeah.
And I remember coming up, and at the time I knew nothing about music theatre. I wanted to do it, but I didn't know anything. I was like 13. It was my first time coming to see West End shows. I came to see it, and it was like, be played by Kerry Ellis. And I was like, okay, cool. We came and watched it. And I remember my dad, who did know more about it, was like, that was incredible.
Oh.
We're like,
thank you, Dad.
Yeah. I'm going to send him this clip afterwards. I think he'll be thrilled. But obviously you were fantastic. And I don't want to make you uncomfortable by complimenting you too much. But it was on that. Within 2 days, I came to see Wicked, Les Mis, and Lion King, I think, back at that time. And it was then I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And so technically, I'm sat here because of you.
That's a good 3 shows to go and see, though. That's a good introduction into it.
I saw Wicked first, and then I saw Les Mis afterwards, and I was... I was so bored in Les Mis. And I know you've done Les Mis too, but I was like...
Well, it was bad timing, though, because if they're the first kind of three you've seen, I mean, Les Mis is so iconic, isn't it? It's so nostalgic. It's like, for me, Les Mis was the first big thing I saw. So for me, I went up at my 30th birthday and kind of my parents took me to see it. And it was at the, where it used to be.
The Palace.
The Palace, thank you. So it was big and the orchestra sounded amazing. So for me, that was magical. But there wasn't anything like Wicked or... Lion King, I don't think it was on then.
I should clarify that I did already know Les Mis as well. Like I had listened to it a lot, and there'd been the first youth.
Yeah, I was going to say, had you done the high school version?
I was going to audition, but my voice broke.
Oh yes, no, we've talked about this before.
It was one of those really boring stories, but so I was very familiar with it, and it was literally the same day, like having seen you in Wicked in the afternoon, and then going to watch Les Mis.
That's quite
And
I
was like, I'm tired now.
Yeah, that would have been a lot.
And you go from Wicked to like where everyone dies.
Yeah, it's not so cheery.
Yeah, like,
everybody's dead.
Cool. So obviously we're missing a giant chunk of your career in between those two things. You've gone from that. Am I right in saying that you were auditioning for We Will Rock You at the time, which was the new one, and Brian May came to watch you in?
Yeah, so he came to watch My Fair Lady, and I happened to be on as one of the swing roles. So I was on as one of the I can't remember which one of the girl, like the dancing girls who has a couple of lines in one of the songs, and he said that person might be quite good to come and audition for Meatloaf. I mean, how he saw it, I have no idea. I still ask him now. I'm like, how did you see that? I did like a few lines, but he then came back and saw me when I was on for Eliza, and then they got me into audition for We Will Rock You. I didn't really know any of this had happened until much later, until I was well into the kind of audition process.
Wow.
That's what had happened. But yeah, we laugh about it now because he says... I knew the minute I saw you. I said, that's my Meatloaf. I know that's who's going to play Meatloaf. And I said, yeah, but you made me audition 7 times.
If you knew, come on.
Just offer it to me.
You knew, but what was I just jumping through hoops for fun?
Yeah, come on, 7.
Like, what am I, your performing monkey?
And those auditions were so stressful because there were so many people there, because it was, there were so many people involved in it, like Arlene Phillips and Ben Elton, and obviously Roger and Brian were there, and it was just this Mike Dixon. There was just this row of people, to audition for, and they all were there the entire time, and it was quite stressful.
So that's a big shift there, right? You go from being, swing, second cover, and sure, getting the opportunity to play that part a lot, to suddenly originating a role in a massive new show with Queen involved.
Yeah.
It's like that's like...
It's quite stressful if you look at it.
Yeah. Giant.
It's
and
quite
also
a leap.
a very different style of singing, right? You're jumping from My Fair Lady to now you're going, let's do some really tough rock singing at the time. Like, what was that like, jumping from one to the other?
Well, I think probably I was probably more at home singing that kind of stuff. Like the rock stuff was a bit more natural to me than the Eliza stuff, if I'm honest. I mean, it's, if I do a concert now, people rarely say, can you sing Could I Dance All Night? They'll say, can you sing, Somebody to Love or something. But I had that kind of soprano bit to my voice, but it wasn't, I found it difficult. So to come to sing something like Rock You was like, oh, this is great. This is where I sit probably a bit more naturally. But again, I think I was young enough to kind of take it in my stride. We were a really young company. So lovely Hannah Jane Fox and Maz Murray, who's a very good friend of mine now. It was full of these young, talented people, and I think we were just having a really nice time. We were just having fun. Again, the weight's not on you as such. The weight is on people like Ben and Queen, and to deliver this new show. And again, when you're younger, you don't really you just don't take that on. Like if I did it now, I'd feel the pressure. But
fair.
Then I was just like, yeah, we're young, we're going to be rock stars. This is great.
What was that like? Were you? This is such a difficult question to answer. Perhaps in hindsight, knowing where you've ended up. But were you a Queen fan prior to that? Was that like was that already a big deal for you, or did you sort of come to appreciate their music because of that?
Yeah, well, my dad was a rocker, and I think that had a massive influence on what my voice was like, because I would sing along to like Les Mis and Miss Saigon, but then I would also sing along to like Bonnie Tyler and Meatloaf, and he listened to the Beatles and Queen, and so he would play a lot of that, and I think subconsciously that would just go in, and I would sing along to it, especially the Meatloaf album. And which is so bizarre.
How to make a song last 11 minutes.
I know, but that's probably why I sing the way I do, because I would just play that album and sing along to both parts, both like Meatloaf and Celine Dion. You know, I would sing along to all of it. So yeah, I think I wouldn't say I was a fan, but I think subconsciously I knew and loved their music, or it was part of me growing up, as it kind of seems to be with everybody.
Yeah.
You ask anybody if they're a Queen fan, they might say, I'm not a Queen fan, but they'll know and love their music or associate their music with a film or with a moment in their life, because they've just been here. It feels like they've been here forever and will be here forever. Their music is kind of just timeless, isn't it?
It's also crazy that, that's become such a big part of your life and career since, right? This friendship with Brian has then sort of grown into an amazing working relationship, and obviously more than that, but and now continues to give you the option together to create wonderful opportunities and do stuff. Like you do loads of things. You've recorded albums together, right? And we were just listening to a song.
We were off the latest album,
Battlefield.
Yeah.
Battlefield.
Thanks.
Just listening to you before. Well, if you're listening to this, which
please go and download it.
You must be. Well, the Kings and Queens album, right? And that's the third song on there. There's a bunch of. I'm a big fan of the Tina Turner cover.
Oh,
yeah,
as well.
That was a bit of a last minute thing as well, and I mean, I didn't even know that she was poorly, or that the timing of that ended up being a bit of a tribute to her. But yeah, I've always been a bit of a fan. We met her actually when she came to Rock You, like years and years ago, as did a lot of big names, which was very exciting. But yeah, she came in and kind of saw the show, and it was very nice. But yeah, I loved the cover. My dad was a big Tina Turner fan, so he played a lot of her music. So I knew it. I knew a lot of her songs.
I love that one. Be Tender With Me, Baby, isn't it?
My dad was a massive Tina Turner fan. So the second we listened to that song, I was like, oh my God, I'm transported back to my dad's car.
I
used to always listen to it in the car, just Tina Turner on repeat.
And at that time they would have cassettes probably, didn't they? They had cassettes, so you would sit and listen to a whole album. You weren't just jumping around with songs like we do now. You'd sit and listen to an entire album of an artist. So,
especially in the car, because you'd only have like 3 tapes in the car max.
Yeah. You can't go anywhere.
We had Gloria Estefan, and that was just permanently on.
we had Tina Turner and The Cause Unplugged. That was it.
I love The Cause.
Unplugged. That was it on repeat for
Aren't
years.
The Cause kind of unplugged anyway?
Yeah, I don't know how you made them more. It was like MTV Unplugged, The Cause.
I want to buy The Cause plugged. Did they release that?
Let's electrify The Cause.
let's bring that in.
Let's give him a beat. There we go.
Brilliant.
So jumping then forwards from that, because obviously from that, you started to become a little more perhaps known in the industry, and then Wicked came about.
Yeah.
And then we've kind of touched a little bit on that. Now, nowadays, I think people have a little bit more of an understanding of quite what a demanding ask that role is. But then, was that the case? Did people quite realise?
No, not at all. And that's really, you know what? I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. And it's so true. It's so true that now we know what that demand is. We know that that's going to kill off an Elphaba. We know that's going to be such a sing for a mezzo soprano or an alto. It's going to push them. But at the time, no. And I think it was a massive learning curve for me. And I did go in. I was quite like I said to you, I was quite a rock singer. So I was quite a reckless, not very trained, not a technical singer. And up till then, Rock You, My Fair Lady, I guess I had to sing a little bit more technically to get through it. But still, it's not a massive, it's not pushing you in the same way. Les Mis was fine, Miss Saigon was fine. Wicked, I kind of came in guns blazing, sang this show as I thought I could sing it, and then I was absolutely wrecked. And I had to almost retrain myself to sing it. And that was a massive learning curve mentally as well, because I'd never lost my voice as such before. But to suddenly be in this cycle of having swollen chords and being tired and being not fit enough and not being, able to bounce back was really tough. So I did have to kind of retrain myself to sing it. Yeah. And then I did, and got my head around it, and could get through 8 shows a week. And then navigate it on another year and to Broadway and to back again. But that's interesting, because we didn't know. No. We didn't even know about the musical. Yeah. I remember getting the call for the audition and saying, you've got an audition to go and be seen for the 2 Witches. And I sang for both. And I was like, okay. And I remember getting the CD with just the 12 songs on it and thinking, okay, yeah, great, fine. Let's go and have a look. Learning a couple of the verses, but didn't have a clue what I was taking on. And I didn't read music well enough to kind of even get the entire score and go, that's a monster. I didn't have a clue. I was going in blind.
I think it is such a preposterous monster that maybe people even today don't quite appreciate how difficult that is. Like any time you speak to somebody who's ever played that role, it feels like you're in this sort of elite club of women who've had that moment of realization of going, oh, like this is, and for some people it's like your voice will never quite be the same after that for that, because of the required effort for that period of time.
Almost like we need an AA group now for all
just everyone's still green.
We're all still a little bit traumatized.
I'm Elphaba and I'm from 2017.
It is though, because everybody's got their own story with it, and some people get slightly more burnt than others. Some people can kind of navigate their way through it. I mean, it depends on I think it depends on how you are as a singer. So people like Alice Fern or Louise Dearman, who have brilliant mixed voices, who are brilliantly technical, they kind of could do it. They still found it ridiculously hard, but mentally it scarred a lot of people. I think just the pressure of having to deliver those songs 8 times a week, and it's not just the songs, it's the shouting, it's the green, the costumes, the running around, the physicality of it. It's a big ask to do that 8 times a week.
Big ask, big emotional journey as well for the character, and it's about as draining as a part can be.
How it's 8, I do not know. Why is it 8? I mean, Christine in Phantom is 4. Why is it 8?
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, 8.
Fine. They'll be okay.
Mad.
But didn't you do that for until Rachel Tucker in 2012, I think I don't know if you maybe don't know this, but you did it for the longest consecutive weeks. I know you had a break.
I didn't know that.
It had 116 weeks or something.
Really? Oh my God.
Including Broadway.
Wow.
Woof.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks.
Let me tell you about yourself.
Take that.
So in that sense, that's why I was asking, I was because it's such a huge task. You mentioned the fitness of that, and alongside that, what did you learn in that process then, both vocally and otherwise? How did you have to manage that?
Oh my God. I mean, it's there's 2 parts to this answer really, because I mean, through those couple of years, I literally lived like a nun. I kind of didn't speak through the day. It was always geared up to doing the show. I would drink loads of fluids, so I'd make sure that I tried to sleep as much as I could. Everything was geared around to going into that show. Not doing anything that was going to stress my voice out. Like silly things like I wasn't even I wouldn't talk at all. I would just go on voice rest, not all the time. But not going out, not drinking, not trying to eat the right thing. It was constant, just managing myself before the show. But now I'm especially in the last kind of 4 years, since I turned 40, I definitely, my kind of fitness and diet regime has changed completely. And that comes with age anyway. You kind of have to, if you want to kind of stay active and stay fit and everything. But it has impacted me so much that, I've always been active, and I've always gone to the gym, or I've always done classes or whatever, but it's in a completely different way now. It's become part of my lifestyle. I do get up, I go to the gym, I eat well, I don't drink a lot. I make sure I drink loads of water, and that has impacted not only my physical fitness, but my voice in the last 4 years, I think has been better than it's ever been. I've had more energy, I've had more strength, I've had more control. And I think that's been all to do with diet and exercise. And I wish I'd have done it more when I was younger, because I think getting through something like Wicked, my recovery for if I'd have blown my voice out, or if it was swollen or I was knackered, my recovery I think would have been a lot quicker had I have been just eating the right things and been exercising more. And I didn't exercise as much on Wicked because I thought it was going to make me more tired. So which is stupid, but you don't know that at the time. I just kind of when I did Anything Goes more recently in the last couple of years, I mean, I was on fire. I had the most energy I've ever had in a show. And I was, the oldest I've ever been in a show. And I could just breeze through it. It wasn't a problem. And I was gymming during the day. I was eating better during the day. And I had more energy. So,
That's so refreshing to hear that. And also, it means that what you're doing in the gym is probably quite good programming, because when you get it wrong, you'll be knackered afterwards. When you get it right, you'll be like, okay, let's go, let's fly through. And that's something we're quite big on. But obviously you went into Reno, wasn't it? That's I did see the show. I can't remember the name.
Oh, I loved it.
We actually went together to see it.
We did.
And you had to tap in that, right?
Oh my God, I had to do a 9-minute tap number. Oh my God.
And hadn't it been about 20 years since you tapped? Is that right?
20, yeah, and some. I mean, I didn't even own a pair of tap shoes, and they called me and they said about doing this job. And I was like, yeah, great. I'd kind of forgotten that it was a big tap show. And they said, do you want to come and see it? Sutton Foster's doing it at the Barbican. Come and see it. And, see if you think it's for you. So I went, and I was like, well, I remember I went with my agent at the time, and we sat there, and the end of Anything Goes, which is this 9-minute tap number, he looked at me and went, you could do that, right? I went, yeah. As I kind of, my voice got really high, and I was kind of squirming in my seat. And I thought, yeah, I think so. But it was like riding a bike. I hadn't put a pair of tap shoes on since I left college. So since 1998, I hadn't put a pair of tap shoes on. I didn't even own a pair. So they kind of offered me it, without seeing, which is a bit silly.
The best outcome, though.
Yeah, well, but then I did get a call saying, oh, Kathleen, we'd just love to film you doing a bit of the tap before we start rehearsal, just to see where you're at, see what you're going to need. So I remember going into the studio with lovely, the resident choreographer and I think the resident director at the time, and I sang a bit of the songs, and they filmed it so they could send it to Kathleen, and they taught me some of the tap. Oh my God! I had to go and buy a pair of tap shoes on eBay, the week before, because I didn't have any, and I made sure they were a bit beaten so they looked like I'd worn them.
Honestly, been going to classes for months.
It's fine. But it was that kind of, when you go back in years and you get offered or you get asked if you can go and do some sort of audition, and they go, can you do this? And you go, yeah, of course I can. Can you walk on stilts? Yes, of course I can. And
we'll work it out later.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. And it was a bit like that. I was like, oh, please. And it was weird because my feet would kind of go in the right direction, but there was just no taps coming out. There was no beats. So my feet were moving in the right, and they were... but no beats.
Just so you're aware, our dynamic is that Bobby is a fantastic dancer, has danced since he was young, and I am not. So,
and we've tapped together.
We have tapped together.
Oh, have you?
At the Palladium.
Oh, how on what show?
We were in Joseph together.
Oh, did you?
The crazy dance version that was done a few years
Amazing.
ago. And yes, Bobby had to drag me through that tap.
Your tap was fantastic by the end.
You just need a few that can really make the noise, and then as long as your legs are going the right way, it doesn't matter.
Just sell it with your face.
Sell it with your face.
It was all emotion. So I really appreciate that feeling of going into us. I actually didn't know there was a tap number in it because I've somehow managed to leave before the tap section of the dance call.
I remember Joseph having a tap number.
Well, every other version of Joseph
doesn't.
No, this one does.
Joseph, I did Joseph the Kenwright tour when it was in 20 something, and many years ago, and the dance was like my level of dance.
Yeah.
And then I thought
this was
up
the
to
Palladium one with Sheridan, that one.
Yeah, we did the year after Sheridan,
When we had, who did we have to do? We had Lindsay
and Alexandra Burke.
And obviously Jason Donovan and Jack Yarrow, legend.
The legend.
And they sort of turned it into a dance version.
It was full out.
Was
It
it?
was not what I was expecting.
It was
Oh no, was it? Oh my God.
I remember my first entrance was doing a knee slide, and I was like, I'm too old to do
Yeah,
knee
yeah.
slides.
Yeah, that's not for me.
No, and I was sort of there not for my dance ability. I was there because I needed to sing a song, and then during rehearsals got laryngitis.
Oh,
I was like, oh, great. This is I don't. What am I bringing to this at this moment in time? I was like, oh my God, I need to get better really, really quickly. And I wanted to touch on it. You say, well, like when you're in that role,
awful.
You're playing Elphaba, and you go, suddenly this is a new thing that you're trying to work out. The first time you then sort of blow your voice out, as you use that terminology, but like, what was that like?
Oh, awful. Oh, horrendous. Stressful. And it's the next day when you wake up and you're swollen and you've just got air. It's that. And it's like, well, what do I do? What do I call? You don't want to go off. Nobody ever wants to go off.
No.
But then what do? Do I kind of limp through the show with this horrendous voice? I mean, I learned things about my voice on that show that, you know, have now given me so many tools to navigate around different songs but I know now not to push like that, and I know now what's going to get me in trouble and get me injured. So I've kind of pushed my boundaries, so I know my limits now. So it was a good learning curve.
Madness. Now, at some point after that,
Yes.
you began working on albums too and releasing music. And now we're at 7 albums. Is that right? Just a casual 7. Casual 7 albums.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of alongside. It didn't kind of come from. It was a slow burn. So obviously, I met Brian, and I'd kind of dabbled. I'd done a few singles for people, so I'd been in a few studios and done a few cast albums and various. I think I did a song for Alfie Boe, and I did a song for Michael Ball at one point. Just duets and things. Really, really kind of just an introduction, and then obviously met Brian and started to sing. We started working on an album together, which was a very slow process because he was obviously still off doing Queen stuff and I was doing lots of other musicals. So we would grab these odd days, like over a good few years in the studio, and we were just kind of discovering what kind of music I might make and where my voice sat in the studio and what was the style of music that was right for me to put out. And Anthems came, I think around 2010 or 2011, but we'd been working together very slowly, very like sporadically throughout those kind of several years. So then by the time that Anthems did come and we toured that show, I was ready to kind of start making albums, and that's when it did kind of kick off a little bit more.
This is forgive me, this is a rubbish question.
No, go on. I like the rubbish question.
But like, sort of prefacing
it won't be the worst.
There's many worse ones to come. But, as you said, a young person from a working class family and stuff, like going in that place, like when your first album came out, were you able to have that moment of going, oh, this is amazing? Or was it still just like part of the thing and you were still working on it? Did you manage to take that moment to appreciate it?
Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, yes. I mean, it's weird with music because it's suddenly out there and there's constant like, well, you've then got to get radio play and then you've got to, the PR happens and then you might get an advert from it. And it's constantly doing things. And it's not like, because you're not, you don't compete with people like Adele and you're not looking for like a number 1 record or something. You're just getting music out there. So there's no real kind of big celebration day as such. But this was quite a moment because the first, we did the launch of it at the Albert Hall, which was, it sounds very grand, yeah. But it was a bit more loaded than that because how that came about was I had done A Night of 1,000 Voices for Hugh Aldridge several years earlier. I'd done a couple of concerts for him. He basically gets the Albert Hall once a year. He puts all these choirs together, used to have a lineup of musical theatre singers. It was like the beginning of like the magic of the musicals they do now up at Manchester Arena. And I had done a couple of these for Hugh. I'd also done chess, I think, at the Albert Hall for him. And he knew I was obviously working with Brian and doing this album. And he said to me, look, why don't I kind of give you the Albert Hall for your album launch and we do all of your album instead of a night of 1,000 voices. And he said, I'll get a choir and we can still have some dancers and we can make it all about your music and do it as a launch for the album.
Well, I'll think about it.
Yeah, hang on a minute. Let me come back to you on that. Let me get back to you, yeah. And that's how it happened. And again, I look back on that now and realise the scale of what that was and that moment. In the moment, I was like, just trying to do the best that I could with all of those elements going on, with the orchestra and I think we had, Brian was obviously playing, we had dancers, we had singers, it was massive. And I did, at the end of that show, I must admit, I did go, this is a moment, I have to take this in because this isn't a casual concert. This is a big moment and I need to remember it. So I did take that in.
And it's gone on for you to be playing and singing in stadiums and various things far more regularly, perhaps. In fact, one of the things I was really that you sang the national anthem, didn't you, at the FA Cup?
I did.
Community Shield, which I was like, that's fantastic.
I'm glad you got that bit right because I always get the bit wrong, like what it is.
I was like, what it was.
And my husband's so livid with me. He's like, you sang at the Community Shield.
That's not what it was.
Yeah.
And obviously you'd sing at arenas and things, but was that different? Because it was a crowd of people that weren't there to see that thing.
Yeah, that people don't care. You've got a job to do, and it's the national anthem, and that they're there for the football. And I go with my husband, and we go and watch, and I know people don't care. They're not there. It's almost like you're not getting in the way, but it's a formality. So it is weird. However, it is interesting though, because people do they do embrace you being there and they do watch and they do, I think because it's quite patriotic, I think people do kind of sing along with you. There's a weird delay. You're on an in-ear monitor, but you can hear the stadium. But you have to listen to your in-ear monitor because otherwise you're out of time. But there's such a delay around the stadium. If you listen to too much of what's going on, you're way out. I was quite stressed about, just don't muck it up. Just don't mess it up. And they did go mental at the end, which was lovely. And, it was cool. I mean, I've sung since in like that environment at like a big charity event, which was lovely. And they did listen. But it's a different crowd.
It's just that weird thing of like your life has been spent, with people paying to see you sing or hear you sing or perform. And then suddenly you're in an environment where there's just thousands of people who are like, yeah,
we don't care.
And they're like, oh, guys.
And then you're dressed up, you're looking fantastic, and everyone's like, what's going on?
Like, guys, I'm good. I'm good at this. Like I'm good at this.
We need to get better at it, I think, because we need to get better at embracing it. Because, you look at like the Americans when they do like their anthem at like the Super Bowl or whatever, and it's a big thing.
They're all in.
Like, I think we just need to make a big deal out of it because I think people would embrace it.
Get pyros going.
I think we need to.
Or even like, because I'm a massive NFL American football fan, so I go to all the games that are here. And they've started doing that like properly here, and it makes a difference. It's so much more entertaining. People are like pumped. Yeah. Like I think Marisha Wallace did it when I went to watch last, and she like jumped off the top of. She was singing at the top of the Tottenham Stadium. Like, and you're like, that's mad.
That's
like
cool.
She's singing the national anthem.
I want
t-shirt
fantastic during.
Yeah,
we need to do it. We need to step it up a bit. I mean, we love like football is massive here. Yeah. It's a massive audience, and we've got brilliant performers out there. We just need to make it a bit better than you just trotting out and standing on the grass and that's rubbish, isn't it? Like, put them on a stage.
Yeah, it's true. It should be like at half time. They should have half time of the FA Cup should be a massive spectacle.
Yeah, it should. Yeah.
It'd be so cool. Like, and you could celebrate like all the great performers that we've got here.
Yeah,
and it'd be. Yeah, if they kind of threw their weight behind it.
Let's put that out there. Let's make that happen.
We'll get Hugh Aldridge on the phone.
Get Hugh Aldridge,
It'll go back.
We'll get a choir. It's going to be good.
We'll be the 1,000 voices.
Yeah, we can do that.
We'll just replicate it on this. We'll just double them up. Now, you obviously, we're not going to talk about every single credit you have because it's we would be
here for a while. I don't think we can record for that long.
Everything will just die. But there are so many in there, and I just wanted to ask you what you think the most like physically difficult show has been for you? I'm going to place a bet. I'm going to show Bobby this thing and see if
it would probably be
interesting.
Anything Goes would have probably have been it, because I was dancing the entire time, but I was ready for it because I'd got myself physically in the right place for it. I mean, I was running half marathons when I was doing that. I'd never even run before my 40s, so I was in a very different physical place. Cats was interesting because I hadn't danced like that for a long time, and I did the whole opening and the bit before the ball, but it wasn't long.
That's
Wicked,
said like
probably.
someone who can dance. The Jellicle Ball wasn't long.
Well, no, but I didn't do that. I did do the whole thing. I did like the opening. I didn't like do the 12-minute number that they do.
I was like, that's
There's no way. I just watched them and go, come on, on the wings.
You're doing it.
Come on, you're doing. They're like dying.
I'll pray for your hip flexors.
Yeah. Oh my God. They're just like athletes in themselves. But, I mean, probably Wicked because of the physicality of it, because of vocally and running around. I mean, there was no real dance in it as such, but just the running around and the physicality of like the singing, and probably is that.
Cats was what I had.
That's what you highlighted.
But I really love that answer because I think it's something that people don't consider. You go, you're like, Elphaba doesn't like really dance. You're like, but you have no idea quite how physically demanding that is.
Yeah.
And, we talk a lot about being fit to do the job.
Yeah.
Being fit to do a random thing is unhelpful. Like we need to be fit to carry that thing out. And actually, when you're like, it's insanely demanding.
Yeah, just even things
physical.
like the costumes, the weight of those dresses. Like you've got corsets and these heavy skirts, and carrying the broom around, and getting in the lift thing where I sing to fly. Those things, just and the running around the set. It's that, and you're constant. I mean, you talk about fight or flight with physical exercise and. You're like that the entire time. You're constantly in fight or flight. You're always ready to go. Always.
It's crazy. And so one of the things I wanted to chat to you about was the voice, right? This because I remember watching that, and I've basically never watched The Voice after that episode because I was so angry.
It's done.
That's true. We were actually talking about this yesterday because you went on there, which was a big risk, right? And how did you feel about it?
So it was just after, I think it was just after Anthem. So I'd done that tour. I think I might have just finished Oliver. I can't remember. And I was just changing agents. So I've been with an agent for about 10 years. And, I wanted to kind of move in a slightly different direction. My music was starting to kind of do stuff. And I wanted to venture out I'd done about 10 shows. And I thought, I think there's something else I can do. So I moved to a different agency. I went to Jonathan Shalit, who looked after people like Marlene Klaas. And I thought, they're really commercial. This might be a great opening. Anyway, I then get a call from The Voice. And it was their first year coming to the UK. So I didn't really know anything about it. And they told me that it was a blind audition. They're going to hear your voice and it's going to be a panel. A little bit like X Factor, but it's a lot more music related. We're not out to get people's stories or something, whatever. And we'd just like you to come on the live show. So I said, well, I was like, I'm not. I'm in an R and a little bit. Spoke to Jonathan about it. It's like, yeah, great, go for it. So I kind of just went for it and didn't really think too much about it. And I thought, worst case scenario, I get to just sing for the nation for a little bit on telly. And I've just had an album out, so it actually might do me a couple of favours of moving me into a slightly different direction. And that was kind of it. What was interesting is when I did go and do it was not the singing. I mean, it was quite nerve-wracking because walking out to silence was not fun. Like even in an audition process, you walk in and people say hello, and you're instantly relaxed. Whereas you walk out and you hear your own footsteps, it's deadly silent. So that's unnerving. That doesn't happen even when you're in a show. There's a hustle, there's a noise. Yeah. So that wasn't fun. And then obviously I sang my song and they didn't turn around. But then when we started to have the conversation with the audience and the panel were asking about what I do and what I've done, and I said a few shows, and the audience starts shouting out the shows, and and it was kind of like, oh, okay, these are my people. And then things happened on Twitter and social media and blah blah blah, and I kind of walked away from it going, well, you know, how things change in our industry, we have to change with our industry, and things like that do come up, and you either get involved and go with it, or you don't. You stay in your, no, I'm going to just do my 8 shows a week and I'm going to stay in that bracket. Or you try these things out. You go on social media, or you go on TikTok, or you try and evolve. And I've always been that kind of person that tries to create variety, to create different avenues. Like I did a podcast in the lockdown. I've done my own albums. I've done various concerts. I've done shows, and try and kind of keep moving, because I think this industry is more than just 8 shows a week. So that was kind of what that was. And it caused quite a stir. Whether it was a good choice or not to do it, I don't know. I don't regret it. It was quite emotionally difficult. I think the hardest bit was having my family there, because as we're used to auditioning, we audition all the time, and it's what we do, but we go on our own and we bear our own souls kind of thing. But having my family there, which they ask you to bring along with you, was awful, because I knew not only what I was getting told, I knew that they'd been reacting to it as well. And that was awful. I mean, thank God I didn't have kids at that time, because I think that would have just been horrendous. But yeah, that was kind of it.
I find it such a, because it was like season 1.
Yeah, people still talk about it.
but it's because it's sort of, it's this quite notable moment that since then, I think it was the clearest moment that we see this quite regularly, that these shows, in my opinion, sort of use people who are well known in music theatre to make other people look good, in my opinion, by saying, look, this person has all these amazing achievements, and we think this person is not better, but they'll show you, and then they'll cut to John, who's a builder, who's never sang before, and someone will turn for that guy, and you're like, but is
I think we have to know what we're getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
With those kind of shows, you know that it's a TV show, you know that it's an entertainment show, and you have to give into that. The difference with theatre is that all of that is done behind closed doors. We do go and bare our souls, but it's like it's only for that panel of people, and then it's gone. But in the TV world, it's an entertainment, and you've got to give into that, and you've got to know what you're going in for, and let that happen.
I think it was, for me, it was the first time I thought that that show was going to not be about that. And I'm assuming you did too.
And they kind of sold it as that. They sold it as being about the music, but then you're like,
and then as the years have gone on, and there's more and more examples of kind of that being done, I'm like, all right, cool. I see that this is perhaps being. I'm not asking you to say that, but
it's difficult though, isn't it? Because it's like, I think for performers, it's a difficult situation, and it's a difficult choice, because you look at things like Strictly, love Strictly, but people are almost penalised if they've trained. But then what's the option for people in our, like, why are we suddenly reprimanded because we have trained and we've spent our lives training to do this industry? Why can't we do things like that? It's a tricky one. It really is.
And then you're more likely to get a role that you're perfectly suitable for in the industry that you're in if you've done Strictly. But you can only do Strictly if you haven't trained. Like,
it's
and
difficult.
if you have the penalised, and then you're like,
it's so hard.
So then people are like, oh, you know what you should do? I used to get this all the time. You should do Hollyoaks. I'm like, what a great idea. I've never considered that.
It is difficult, isn't it? It is a minefield. People have no idea.
And we've chatted about this a lot. You're going, if you were a producer, I would understand that decision. Like you'd make the same calls, going, well, okay, well, how do I get bums on seats in this instance in that place? Anyway, that's slightly off topic. You mentioned,
well, you make a good show. That's what you do. And look at something like Wicked, for example. Wicked was full of unknowns. I mean, obviously, it made a name for Dina. Kristen, I think, was already kind of having a slightly different career, but it was full of unknowns. And look, and the show is magical. And the same with Les Mis, So I know you didn't like it, but
no, just a bit.
I'm joking.
I do actually
I'm joking. But Les Mis was full of unknowns, and the show was brilliant and it made stars of people that were brilliant. And I think that's what people. It's tricky as a producer. You got to put loads of money into something and take a risk on something. But
that risk.
I'm not sure it always works to put, the wrong person.
Feels like a shortcut. Like even like modern, like Hamilton obviously is another example. Where
Hamilton,
like it's not like there was a name attached to that.
Absolutely.
And all of that. So I'm sure there's lots of other examples.
Yeah.
I can't currently think of. But you mentioned not having your kids there when that all happened. How did that change your sort of professional career? Because I find it so amazing that anytime someone is a parent and still does this as a job, I'm like, how are you functioning as a human being?
It's therapy. We do it so that we have a bit of time. I've got to go to work. Got to go to work and enjoy myself.
Just to get away from the screaming for a moment.
Yeah, no. You know what? I feel, this might sound a bit wanky, but I feel very fortunate that I get to do both because, I wanted to be a parent and my boys are brilliant. They're a lot. They're full on. And again, that's probably what sparked my exercise routine, to keep up with them and to be fit for them. I want to be able to go to Gravity and do the monkey bars with them and show them that I'm a strong kind of mum and I can have fun with them. That's part of it. But I do get to be a mum and I do get to, be around them a lot, but then I get to do a job that I love doing. And I think very differently about the industry now since having them. I'm more grateful of the moment. I take the moments in a bit more. When you asked about, did I acknowledge those moments? I think not as much as I do now. I'm more grateful for being in those companies and environments of going, creating and being artists, being creative, because the time is more precious. Like I don't have time to waste. Not that I had time to waste, but I have other things to do. I have to get home to my kids. So it's for me to sacrifice time with them to go and do something. I'm appreciative of it.
Yeah,
it's more valued time.
Yeah.
Does that mean that I guess not that you didn't consider that before, but when you decide to do something, you have to really consider it now and go, well, is this going to be? It's not
different.
Just another 6 weeks somewhere else. It's like, oh, do I want to be away?
It's very different now. And also that's why I think variety has been so key for my whole career, because it's allowed me now to do more things. I've got more options because I don't want to be away for long periods of time. So I can go and do like a concert, or I can go and do a voiceover, or I can go and do, a little tour somewhere. And it still allows me to be a parent and be around and not be like, a show is difficult. I've done shows with them, but it's tough because I'm out every day and every bedtime and that is hard. So I don't always look for long running shows at the moment. When they're older, then maybe, but not at the moment.
Do they think what you do is cool?
No. No. They've been around it since like I was pregnant with. I did shows while I was pregnant with both of them. I went back into Wicked when Alfie was 6 months. I was doing Cats. He was here. I was pregnant with Fred during Cats. I've toured with both of them. So they've been around it. So they don't see it. It's not a big deal for them. They take it in their stride, and they don't really, I don't think they think anyone else's parents don't do that. They don't know that. Until they're starting to understand, I think.
It'll be like when they're like 23, they'll go, I was actually pretty cool what my mum did when I was a kid.
That's amazing.
Did you have that? I don't know, like you sort of go, whatever your parents do. You said your dad was a policeman, was that right? Like, there comes a point when you're like, oh, that's actually a really hard job. God, he had a kid while.
It's amazing, isn't it? You do look at your parents so differently. The older you get, you just understand them more. You understand the struggles that they kind of went through, all the balancing that they went through.
Yeah, and you go, they were just stressed.
Yeah, they were just stressed.
Or tired.
They weren't just angry.
And as I've got older, I'm like, I was being annoying.
Yes, it was me.
It makes sense
I
now.
get it. Yes. I didn't want the yogurt, but but actually it would have been easier if I'd just eaten the yogurt, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
It would have.
My dad, though, loves telling me now. He goes, see, you know how it feels now. He just loves telling me that. I'm like that.
Have they turned?
As he like shoves them back, filled them with sugar and sends them back. I'm like, thanks a lot.
I was going to say, do you that sort of shift, right? When you suddenly have your kids, do you see a different side of your parents that you get to see them sort of be the fun grandparents, where they don't have to do the rules? Or what was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really lucky because I've got a good support network. I mean, my dad and stepmom are great, and I've got my mum and stepdad down in Portsmouth, and we've got in-laws as well. My husband's, oh my God, it gets very confusing. My husband's parents. So we are well supported. And again, there's no way I'd be able to do this job if we didn't have that network. And not that they always babysit at all, but they're around and the kids feel loved and they're quite happy to go to different places and travel. And it's made them quite resilient, which is really good. And opening their eyes to different situations and different opportunities, so they don't think that they've just got to come out of school and do a 9 to 5. And nothing wrong with that, but they know that there's other things out there. They know they can work in sport, or they can work in the arts, or whatever. They travel, whatever. So that's But the answer to your question, I do see them differently. I just understand it differently. Both my parents worked and had us, And I was dancing like 3 or 4 times a week. I mean, how they got me there, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And they did. And, I was eating pasta in the back of the car and going to my dance classes and then coming home. And they both had full-time jobs. I mean, I'm like, Feb, how did you do that? Because I don't know how to do that.
Actual wizardry. Actually happen. Think about it. And you're like, you mentioned earlier on swimming, trampolining, gymnastics.
I did everything.
You're like, how did you do that? How were you there?
I don't understand.
Or maybe I just don't remember, and they just had, we had babysitters or something. I just don't remember.
You actually had a chauffeur that you were unaware of. Like a permanent
chauffeur.
Yeah. You've just erased from your memory. I'm on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything about health or wellness or the industry or anything at all that you would like to see get in the bin?
Get in the bin?
Yeah.
Ooh, I haven't been asked that before either.
We're bringing the first on the questions on this.
Oh, this is
winner,
good.
winner.
I would... I'd like to get rid of vocal warm-ups.
Oh!
Is that a little bit out there?
No.
Because I think they're reckless. I think if you go into it, and we've all done it, we've all gone into a show and you sing ridiculously for like 20 minutes. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's half the show. Who does that? You're not warming your voice up. You're just banging your voice. It's almost like you go and sprint for half an hour before you then do your marathon. It just doesn't make sense.
We've said this exact thing. I'm so happy you're saying
it.
And
I wish there was, a set, educated vocal warm-up for shows.
Yeah.
That was the right kind of warm-up. I mean, they're getting better, I think. They are getting better.
It used to just be like, how high can you belt?
How high can you belt Bella Signora? I mean, it's ridiculous.
And everybody's, for no reason at all, if they're doing Bella Signora, somebody's putting a third and a fifth in so that it sounds nice. And you're like, that's great. But
it's
in
not
a second, you're screwed.
In New York, they don't have warm-ups. You all come in at the half and that's it. And as a professional, you're just,
do it yourself. Yeah.
I mean, I like the fact that you come together.
Yeah,
I do like that. And I like that. I think you should do some kind of physical warm-up. I think that's really good. You're gonna take care of yourself anyway, but I just think the vocal warm-up needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
To save everybody.
Well, it's in the bin.
It's gone in the bin.
So that's gone in the bin.
It's done.
Out.
And I guess another one, you will have had this question before.
Go on.
Somebody entering the industry now, any advice you would give them?
Ooh, don't do it.
Yeah.
No.
That's what my dad said to me.
No, but you know what? I mean, I think it's one of the toughest industries of the world. I mean, people say to me, how's it going? I say, yeah, still hustling. And I am still hustling. And I've been doing this for over 25 years. And I think I'm still having to graft and still having to hustle. And I think if I'd have been in any other company in the world where I'd have worked myself up to, I'd probably be a CEO by now, and have all those benefits and have security and have a pension, like those kind of things. Whereas we don't really have that, and it's a constant hustle, it's a constant battle. However, I do think it is one of the best jobs in the world. And when we do those moments where everything comes together, when you do that show where you're in a brilliant company and it's all great, it's the best job in the world, I think. But yeah, I'd say know what you're getting yourself into, and you've got to love it, because if you don't love it, find something else, because it will be those days when you're rock bottom, you haven't worked for a bit, you're injured possibly, you can't find a job. It's those times that you need the love to get back on that horse and get out there.
Yeah. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Like, just don't do it. Well, that's what I'm thinking too.
Well, do it, but know what you're getting yourself into.
No, you're so right. And I think that some people go, oh, well, if you worked for 30 years in another industry, it doesn't mean you'd be the CEO. It'd be like, yeah, but if you worked with that level of passion and dedication that you have done in this, like you said, like that amount of applied effort into like, of course you would. And that's what you see. You see people like applying insane amounts of effort, and some of whom never get a return on that.
And lots of people leave it, and they have to. And the pandemic was a prime example. Lots of people had to leave because they couldn't sustain it. We had no support. We had no funding, no nothing. So it lost a lot of people. So it's difficult.
That was a fun time.
That was
fun time was all there, wasn't it?
That was horrendous.
Oh my God.
It was horrendous. Awful.
I've got a request.
Oh, here we go.
Try not to change your facial expression or give anything away. We'll look away from you for this.
No.
We're going to say liar, liar outro now. So we're going, do we think that Kerry has managed to lie? And if so, what we think it would be. Now, listeners, wherever you might be, we want you to cast your minds back and have a little think too. Bobby, what do you think?
I think she has.
Do you think it's the arm break?
I think it's the arm break.
I think we're either on a no lie or it's the arm break.
I can't look at you.
It's those two things. It's either there's not been a lie or it's the arm break.
What should we go for?
Arm break.
Okay. We're placing our bets. With the triple fracture of the arm as the lie. Tell us, did you manage to lie?
I didn't manage to lie.
That was true.
You know what's funny?
Poor kid.
You know what's funny? Yeah, that was true. Poor Alfie. But what's funny is that I was like, yeah, I've got this. I'm going to get a corker in here. And then I just got so excited by the chat. I forgot about it.
The lie's gone.
But Alfie has got his arm break story on a podcast.
Yeah,
that is an impressive story, really.
It's a good one, isn't it?
I'd be when he's 16, he's going to be telling everyone that.
Yeah, he will. My mum didn't take me to the hospital.
They'll be like, I was chill about it, but my dad said I had to go.
Yeah, it will change.
Yeah, it gets older. But I'm fine.
Right, it's time for another game.
Oh, amazing.
We're going to play a game of this or that. So it's a 1 minute lightning round a la Friends. Okay. Steffan, I'll give you two options.
Oh,
Got to pick one.
I need a diction warm up.
This is quite stressful for me because I'm so indecisive. So just this. Okay, get ready.
Okay, are we ready?
I might have to meditate beforehand.
One sec, Bobby. Just give me before and after. It's fine. We'll
do that.
Do that meditation. Get that in.
Gonna breathe.
Great.
Okay.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Eggs or bacon?
Eggs.
White bread or brown bread?
Brown.
The US office or Friends?
Friends.
Cardio or resistance training?
Oh, cardio.
McDonald's or Burger King?
Neither.
Singing or acting?
Both.
Wicked West End or Wicked Broadway?
West End.
Yoga or Pilates?
Or yoga.
Family Guy or Love Island?
Family Guy.
Domino's Pizza or Papa John's?
Domino's.
Sport or dance?
Both.
Alcohol or chocolate?
Definitely both.
Matching socks or mismatching socks?
Oh, mismatching.
Coca-Cola or Pepsi?
Don't like them.
Elphaba or Meatloaf?
Meatloaf.
Game of Thrones or Glee?
Game of Thrones.
Books or Kindle?
Books.
Clean shaven or beard?
I don't know. So.
Personal chef or personal stylist?
Chef.
Opening night or press night?
Oh my God. Opening night.
Sexy or smart?
Sexy.
Shower or bath?
Shower.
Musicals or concerts?
Concerts.
Dogs or babies?
Dogs.
Snakes or badgers?
Snakes or badgers? What kind of one is that? Both, I guess.
Theme parks or water parks?
Water parks.
Running or walking?
It's all coming back. Running.
Director or choreographer?
A director.
Bobby or Steffan?
Neither.
After that round, I'm not surprised.
That descended into carnage. That was fantastic.
It was the snake and beaver, I'm afraid.
Snake and beaver. I'm going to
Snake
change
and beaver.
because it was
Oh,
badger.
yes,
I'm going to change it to beaver because that's
beavers
hilarious.
are great.
Jeez.
Snakes or beavers?
I think that's why I was second guessing myself, and I was going, "Oh no, panic!"
If I change it to beavers, though, is that too much?
No.
Beavers or badgers?
No,
Beavers or badgers?
Beavers or badgers?
it's not too much.
Is it snakes or beavers, or is it beavers or badgers? You can decide for
Snakes
us.
or beavers?
Snakes or beavers?
Yeah. Snakes or beavers.
Snakes or beavers?
It's officially
Yeah.
changed.
I
That
love
is a
it.
permanent change to the
Great.
podcast now.
Thrilled. When they laugh about it, you could tell it was my fault.
We go, sorry guys, it's Gareth's fault. We'll send you send you a number. You can send your complaints right over.
Please send your complaints.
Yeah.
You're just going to be
Email me.
all these emails being like, why is it beavers? I don't get it. Kerry, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
Yeah,
joining
Thank
us.
you so much.
It genuinely has been a pleasure to, and if you're listening to this, go and listen to the Kings and Queens album.
Oh, yeah.
Or any of the
Do
others,
it.
but that's the newest one, isn't it?
That is.
And enjoy. Be tender with me, baby.
Do it. Enjoy it.
And thank you at home or wherever you might be for listening.
Yeah, and if you've enjoyed this episode, click those like and subscribe buttons. Find us on Instagram at Fit2Perform West End. As always, if you've got any questions you want answered, slide into those DMs. I'll be nursing a triple fractured arm.
Oh, I'm so glad you didn't say anything about a beaver. Thanks again for listening. If you love what you've heard, we've been Fit2 Talk with our wonderful guest, the First Lady of Musical Theatre, Kerry Ellis, and your hosts, me, Steffan.
And me, Bobby. And if you didn't like it, we've been Joe Wicks. Peace out.